Hello, I'm Teresa and I'm one of the infant feeding leads in Nottinghamshire.
Hi, and I'm Jo. I'm another of the infant feeding leads in Nottinghamshire.
So today we're going to talk about responsive and paced bottle feeding. So Jo, I've heard the term and we've all heard the term responsive bottle feeding. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
So we know that in the UK we tend to overfeed our bottle fed babies because if we have a teat in a baby's mouth, they will sometimes take a little bit more than they need, and over time that can lead them to take too much, which potentially leads to them being obese as toddlers and children and adults. So we're trying to reduce potential for overfeeding. So responsive bottle feeding is about really tuning in to what the baby's telling us so that we don't overfeed them. And one of the key things is that we limit the number of people that feed the baby, so the people that are feeding the baby really kind of understand the baby and understand what the baby's telling us. So usually the primary caregivers would be the people that would be feeding the baby with the bottle, not passing the baby from person to person. So then the baby feels comfortable, the parents can read the cues, know what the baby's telling them, so know kind of when the baby's had enough. And also having the baby in this position, so kind of upright, close, so it's kind of nice and cuddled, and the caregivers and the baby are having eye-to-eye contact, so they can kind of get a feel for whether the baby wants to slow down or stop or have a pause.
Oh yes, I can see that baby's going to feel most secure and safe held in their primary caregiver's arms, and that relationship will build. And baby feeling safe and secure, that helps the brain development, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if baby's really relaxed, being comfortable with a caregiver that they trust because the caregiver knows what they want, their brain has more happy hormone, oxytocin, less stress hormone, which is really good for baby building those connections in the brain.
And I guess that'll help baby absorb the milk as well.
Yeah, it helps them to feel more relaxed and the digestion is better.
Lovely. So what other things with responsive bottle feeding, what other things should we be aware of?
So it's really important to look at babies' feeding cues. So I think sometimes in the past we've kind of looked at the tin and how often it says for us to feed our babies, and we know that actually it's much better to tune into your baby, and your baby knows whether they want to be fed or not. So we want parents to look for early feeding cues, things like beginning to kind of wriggle and look for the bottle, not waiting until they're absolutely desperate and crying and distressed, because it's really difficult to feed when you're really stressed. So try and feed at early feeding cues, look for those feeding cues. And also with regard to the feeding the baby, there's certain things that we can do to try and ensure overfeeding.
All right, so responsive bottle feeding actually covers those three things. So it's holding baby close, the main caregivers to give baby the bottle, and to make sure that baby doesn't overfeed. Lovely. Okay. So now paced feeding are ways how to avoid baby being overfed. So can you just go through the key points of paced feeding?
So one of the things is don't force the teat on the baby. So tickle the baby's top lip to get them to gape, so we're not forcing the bottle in. And then when the baby gapes, making sure that we don't have the bottle like this, because if we have the bottle like this, as you can see, it drips out. It's gravity feeding, so potentially the baby takes more than they actually need. So we want to have the bottle more horizontally like that. And what we want to do, we want the baby to do suck, swallow, suck, swallow, suck, swallow. Have a little bit of a pause. Suck, swallow, suck,
Sounds
swallow.
so relaxing, Jo, doesn't it?
Nice rhythmical feed. So if our baby goes suck, 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 and never takes a break, that's just a bit of a time.
So stressful, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And I think some parents thought that indicates the baby's really hungry, but it's not at all, is it? It's just a sign that they're feeding too
just a little bit too fast, and their breathing needs to keep pace with their feeding. So if we have the bottle horizontally, it should allow the baby to pace the feed, so they should be able to go suck, swallow, pause, suck, swallow, suck, swallow. There might be more little sucks than that. Some of the things we can look for which show that we need to put a little bit of a pause in for our babies. If the baby kind of begins to arch their back or their brow brows are furrowed, or their fingers splay, or they're pulling away or leaking milk, that's a little bit of a sign that we need to put a bit of a pause in, that they're not actually pausing it well themselves. So all we can do, we can just tilt the bottle and then just look, let the baby have a little bit of a pause. If they start sucking again, we know they want some more, so we can tilt it again. And we can let them carry on again. If when we tilt it, they stop feeding, that might be a sign they've had enough, so we can just take it out and have a little look. Do they seem to want some more? If they're still kind of looking for it, maybe, so we do the same thing again. We kind of tickle the top lip to get them to gape and start again. But if when we take it out, they seem to not be wanting any more, maybe we just give them an opportunity if they've got a little bit of wind, if they want to be upright like that, or we do just sit them upright and then just kind of see, just watch them. Do they seem to want some more, or are they okay?
And so that's watching the baby, and we know that we don't always have the same amount every time we eat. So the same with the baby, they might sometimes, just because they've had 3 ounces for the last 3 feeds, they might want a little bit less or a little bit more. So that's a good way of checking where the baby is with that.
And it's important to realise that actually it's okay for them to leave a little bit, that's okay. Sometimes they might want to take all the amount, sometimes they might want to take less. We really do need to tune into our babies, otherwise we do risk them getting used to the habit of overfeeding.
Okay, and if the baby doesn't take all of the milk, how long can we leave the milk for?
So if they've started the bottle, we would throw it away within an hour if they've started that bottle. If we've made up a bottle, if it's not used, it's at room temperature, we throw it away within 2 hours. But if they've started it, we'd only leave it an hour.
Okay, lovely. That's really clear. So responsive and paced bottle feeding can be used for formula milk and for express breast milk. And for more information, check out the First Steps in Nutrition website.